so that one's been pulled. This one is being redrafted.
We gotta pass it right now. We're not coming back. So I just
Okay,
let them
yeah,
down.
it's being redrafted.
Is it in this packet?
Okay, if the committee will please come to order. Packets are being handed out for this afternoon's session. Okay. All right, what I'd like to do this afternoon is to start with, on your packets, go down to House Bill 1, the nursing home appropriation. Yeah, look,
It's on page 11.
thank you. So you're looking on page 11 of your packet?
I'll move this amendment. Are we doing this right now?
Yeah, so we have a House Bill 1 amendment with Senator Hennessy, Rosenwald, and Gaida. And I'll look for a motion to get this on the floor.
So moved.
Moved by Senator Hennessy, is seconded by Senator Gaida.
Second, yeah.
Discussion. LBA, do you want to give us an update on this? or-
Yep, sure. This would increase funding for nursing homes by 5% above the House passed level. So you can see that would be an increase in total funds of 10.6 million roughly in fiscal 22 and 10.8 million in fiscal 23. And that would be funded half with state general funds and half with federal funds. So it wouldn't impact the county contribution.
Okay, Senator Hennessy.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I think we've all heard from our nursing homes in our areas about the difficulties that they're having, especially with the payments for their Medicaid patients. And I am hoping this 5% increase will be a big help to them.
Further discussions. Senator Rosenwald.
Ditto.
Further discussion. Senator Gaida.
Very quickly, the numbers I got from nursing homes in my area, their costs are up anywhere between 13 to 18% per annum. And they're struggling. And if they can't maintain their business, we're going to be in a real bind. So I would support this amendment. Thank you.
Thank you. Further discussion. Seeing no further discussion, we'll call roll. Senator Morse, the motion before us is the adoption of House Bill 1 amendment by Senators Hennessy, Rosenwald, and Gaida. Senator Morse,
Yes.
Senator Hennessy.
Yes.
Senator Reagan. Senator Gaida.
Yes.
Senator Rosenwald.
Yes.
And chair votes yes. and motion is adopted 6-0. Go on to amendment 1713.
1713 deletes the USNH and CCSNH merger commission.
Senator Reagan moves on to pass. Is there a second? Second by Senator Gaida. Discussion? Seeing none, you ready for the vote? Senator Morse,
Yes.
Senator Hennessy,
Yes.
Senator Reagan, Senator Gaida.
Yes.
Senator Rosenwald.
Yes.
And the chair votes yes. Motion passes 6-0. Amendment 1642.
I don't plan to bring that.
Okay, thank you. Amendment 1288.
There's an amendment here. There's also an amendment on divisive concepts that's being drafted OLS right now, I believe, under I wanted the Senator Bradley possibly. Just a late change. We're just getting that drafted. But this one specifically is deletes the sections 330 and 331 relative to the divisive concept sections.
Senator Rosenwald.
Thank you. I'd like to move 1288S.
Senator Rosenwald moves amendment 1288S. Is there a second? Motion fails for lack of a second.
Chairman, I'd like to take it up when we take up the amendment that I would hope we could get OLS to draft within this next 45-minute session that we're having here.
With no objection, we'll put that on hold and
Great.
bring that in later then.
Thank you.
Going on to amendment 1762S.
This amendment here would delete section 351 in House Bill 2 that made a $63.3 million appropriation from the general fund to the Education Trust Fund.
Thank you. Is there a motion regarding 1762S?
Mr.
Well,
Chairman.
I'll move it.
Senator Rosenwald moves the adoption. Is that seconded? I'll second for discussion purposes. Any discussion on 1762S? Motion on the floor is the adoption. Senator Morse, a question?
Well, two things. Yes, I support 1762. I won't be offering 1761 because the trust fund's in a position right now that we should accept 1762.
Okay, thank you. Further discussion? Okay, the motion for us is the adoption of 1762S. Senator Morse,
Yes.
Senator Hennessy,
Yes.
Senator Reagan, Senator Gaida,
Yes.
Senator Rosenwald.
Yes.
And the chair votes yes. Motion carries 6-0. Senator Morse has declared that he wishes not to move 1761. So we'll go on to 1759.
Yep, sure. So this is a modified version of an amendment you saw earlier. There was some discussion the other day about whether general funds should be used for the purpose of providing enrollment-based reimbursement to childcare providers. And this would explicitly state on lines 16 and 17 that no state general fund shall be used for this purpose. And also, unlike the previous amendment, It would confine the enrollment-based reimbursement to fiscal '22.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Senator Hennessy.
I move this amendment and I'd like to speak to it.
Senator Hennessy moves amendment 1759S. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Senator Gaida. Senator Hennessy, you're recognized.
Thank you. I believe Senator Rosenwald's name should have been on this amendment too. So I appreciate your help with this, Senator Rosenwald. Again, what the LBA said, that this is for 1 year and that we are happy to come back and if it is working with the federal funds that are coming into the state, revisit this in legislation. And also it explicitly states no general fund shall be used.
Further discussion? Seeing none, we will call roll. Senator Morse,
Yes.
Senator Hennessy,
Yes.
Senator Reagan, Senator Gaida.
Yes.
Senator Rosenwald.
Yes.
And the chair votes yes. Motion carries 6-0. Amendment 1756S.
This relates to the closure of the Sununu Center. This is on page 20 in your packet. And this would state that the Sununu Center shall be closed no later than March 1st, 2023. So that differs from the July 1st, 2022 date in the House's plan. This would also establish a committee to develop a plan for the center's closure. One other thing I'll point out, on lines 12 through 21, you'll see that the appropriation for the Sununu Center would be made here in House Bill 2 instead of House Bill 1 as discussed the other day, but the numbers appropriated here are the same as those that the committee voted on a few days ago.
Thank you. So motion regarding 1756S.
I'll move it.
Moved by
Second.
Senator Hennessy,
Second.
second by Senator Rosenwald. Further discussion? Seeing none, call for the vote. Senator Morse,
Yes.
Senator Hennessy.
Yes.
Senator Reagan, Senator Gaida.
Yes.
Senator Rosenwald.
Yes.
The chair votes yes. The motion carries 6-0. Amendment 1731S.
Yes, and this is on page 23 in your packet, and this relates to the closed loop referral system. This would replace the existing amendment that the committee passed previously, and this would state that there shall be no further expansion of the closed loop system beyond that which has already been implemented. And it further states there shall be no further utilization of that system until the department has issued a request for proposals and selected a vendor.
Is there a motion to move 1731S?
I'll move it.
Senator Hennessy moves the adoption of Amendment 1731S. Is there a second?
I'll second for discussion.
Okay, Senator Moore seconds for discussion. Senator Bradley.
Could I propose something slightly different? That being, we accede to the House position, but with a reporting deadline of November 1st for the HHS Oversight Committee. I don't have the amendment in front of me. I apologize for that, but I believe that that would satisfy the department and satisfy the House, as long as there's a reporting deadline for the HHS Oversight Committee.
Thank you. Further discussion.
I hope it would
Senator
support
Gaida.
the, I hope it would satisfy the House.
Thank you. Senator Gaida.
Yeah, I am deeply concerned about the status of the data in which the department is claiming they need access to individual data as opposed to aggregated data. And in fact, the amendment that I placed, that we passed, that restricted the use, any further use of this, was because of those concerns about the privacy of data. And I had a discussion with John Williams earlier. They don't like the fact that we, and there may be reasons for it, but I think until this gets a much closer look about why the data is needed to be used, I would not support this amendment. I think the amendment as originally proposed by this body is a better amendment. Thank you.
Thank you. Further discussion, Senator Morse.
Yeah, I've been involved on both ends. I asked Senator Bradley to deal with Lynn Ober. I made it clear to everyone that's called our office that the reality is it's the House's version or the Senate's version, nothing less. The Senate's version, which I understand where Senator Guy is coming from, several people have blown holes in it on my end. The House version, which I still think is strong. The amendment was just brought to me a few minutes ago about putting a reporting date in it. I'm not sure that matters one way or the other, but I can live with the House's version. And only because if we go to the Senate's version, I think we're going to be opening up Pandora's box. And we might have gone too far with that version.
So for clarification, the language we have before us is the Senate version. Is that correct?
Right now, we voted on an amendment from Senator Gaida. That's the Senate's version.
Okay.
I'm saying, I think we should go back to the House's version with one amendment that they have a reporting requirement.
Okay. Senator Rosenwald.
Thank you. I find myself in the position of Goldilocks on this. I think the House didn't go far enough and Senator Gaida's amendment went too far. I could live with the House's version if we do three things to it that are a matter of public policy. One is we write into the statutory language that the department shall not have access to the identifiable data of people. When I discussed this project with Dr. Jonathan Ballard, he said, I neither need that data nor do I want it. So I respect that from him. But I also think we should do two other things to it that I've discussed with Senator Gaida. I hope he supports. One is there is no provision in the contract that requires, if there is a data breach by the database of Unitas, that the individuals affected be notified that they were subject to a data breach under the HIPAA definition. There is a 48-hour requirement notice that they have to tell the department, but I think we should require that they begin the notification process of telling individuals that their data has been breached. And finally, I think we should clearly give people an opportunity to revoke their consent to be in this database. Apparently, you can't remove your historical data under federal law. I'm sad about that, but that's federal law. But I think as a matter of public policy, we owe it to the people of New Hampshire who want their privacy to protect both their privacy and their security. So I'd like to meet in the middle. Thank you.
Thank you. Senator Morse.
Mr. Chairman, what is your plan to close this out? I know we're coming back Friday to vote. How far do you intend to get to that?
I would like to get through as much as we have.
Well, it seems our problem is drafting. And
Correct.
it's not, I mean, and I haven't seen a set of financials right now. I'm just wondering if it makes sense for finance to meet in the morning, and closed loop would be one thing that's not going to get done today. If we were to make some kind of agreement, I mean, Senator Gaida and I are probably closer to Senator Rosenwald than we are to the House. So maybe we could work on that tonight, get them to draft it. I'm just wondering if it makes sense to have a plan that we'll go through as much as we can. I know the Democrats are caucusing at 4. which means they're gonna be 2 or 3 hours, so we could be having whatever drafting we need to vote on in the morning, if everybody was agreeable to come back. But I know LBA is gonna be under some kind of crunch, so,
Well, I know that we have to be here tomorrow anyway.
yeah, but can LBA get it ready for us, right?
Well, yes, and I'm all in favor of giving LBA whatever time they need to comfortably get things together, not working all night. So I would have no problem unless there's any objection to putting this one on hold. And we'll go through the rest of the list as much as we can until 4 o'clock. And then whatever's left over, we will take up tomorrow morning. Okay, so we'll place 1731S on hold. Go on to 1733S.
Sure, 1733S is the governor's language relative to the Granite State Paid Family Leave Plan with one big change or one major change. And that is on page, bear with me. I believe it's on 32, just relative to who it applies to. It's no provision of the chapter shall require employees with fewer than 50 employees to offer family medical leave or process payroll deductions on behalf of employees choosing to participate in this program.
What line were you on, Mr. Kane?
It's on page 32, line 28.
Senator Morse.
Chairman, I move the item and I'd like to speak to it.
Second?
Senator Morse moves amendment 1733S, seconded by Senator Hennessy. Chair recognizes Senator Morse.
In an attempt to get Family Leave Act passed in a fashion that it's voluntary, the one thing that I said from the beginning that I believe needs to be in this legislation is the federal side of, and we've looked this up, it's 50 and above is the way the federal government treated Family Leave Act back in the 90s. So we've given this to House leadership, knowing that they are struggling with Family Leave Act. But I think it is a good compromise, and we gave it to them to leadership this morning. I would move it. I would put it in our budget, and hopefully the House can agree to it when we move along here.
Okay, thank you. Further discussion? Senator Rosenwald.
Thank you. Just briefly, I will not be supporting this. I don't think it really is effective as a voluntary program.
Thank you. Further discussion? Senator Reagan.
So I still have the same question I've had since I first saw this type of proposal. Is where has this worked?
I don't have the answer. I don't know.
I believe there is no answer. I don't believe it's worked anywhere yet long enough to say that there's a definitive operational model for it. That's why I can't see.
Senator Rosenwald.
Thank you. I believe we learned that it's been in effect in Rhode Island for a number of years, but in the other states, if it was voluntary, it wasn't sustainable.
Further questions? The question before us is the adoption of Amendment 1733S. You ready for the question? Senator Morse.
Chairman, I thought there was a change to this amendment on dates, because when we looked it up in other legislation, we didn't believe this could be done by September 30th, 21. So we were going on page 6, line 5. We're going to change it to January 1, 2022. In line 7, we're changing to October 1, 2022.
Okay, you're moving an amendment on those dates?
Yes.
Senator Morse moves the amendment of a couple dates on page 6, on line 5, changing September 30th, 2021 to January 1st, 2022,
Second.
and July 1st, 2022 to October 1st, 2022. That's seconded by Senator Hennessy. Any discussion of that amendment? Senator, on line 7, July 1st, 2022 to October 1st, 2022. Any discussion on that amendment on the dates? Seeing none, call roll. Senator Morse,
Yes.
Senator Hennessy.
Yes.
Senator Reagan, Senator Gaida.
Yep.
Senator Rosenwald, and the chair votes yes. The motion carries 4-2. Back to 1733 as amended. Now, is there any further discussion?
Move as amended.
Senator Hennessy moves 1733. I think we already had. But Senator Hennessy moves 1733 as amended. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Senator Morse. Any discussion? There being none, call roll. Senator Morse,
Yes.
Senator Hennessy,
Yes.
Senator Reagan, Senator Gaida,
Yes.
Senator Rosenwald, and the chair votes yes. Motion carries 4-2. Next is Amendment 1760. It's on page 35.
Amendment 1760 effectively transfers $50 million in fiscal year 2022 from the general fund to the highway fund.
Senator Morse.
Move the amendment.
Second.
Senator Morse moves Amendment 1760S. That's seconded by Senator Gaida. Discussion? There, Senator Morse?
Yeah, my intention was to have $25 million left in the education trust fund. 155 was the plan, well, 152 was the plan in the general fund, rainy day fund. And when we moved $5 million again for the second time to cover the payroll today, because the highway fund is virtually empty, it's time to fix it. So I'm proposing moving $50 million into the highway fund. I'm not proposing any appropriations right now. I know people all have ideas, but I think the way the budget's been written so far, our last 20 million that we just spent on nursing homes kind of shores up what we were doing. And I think this is the best way to deal with this $50 million. So.
Thank you. Further discussion? So we're voting on Amendment 1760S. Call roll. Senator Morse,
Yes.
Senator Hennessy,
Yes.
Senator Reagan, Senator Gaida.
Yes.
Senator Rosenwald. The chair votes yes, motion carries 6-0. Amendment 1732.
Yep, Amendment 1732 allows unclassified employees or classified employees to maintain their leave balances when they transfer to an unclassified position.
Senator Reagan moves ought to pass on Amendment 1732S. Is there a second? I'll second. Discussion?
Yes.
Senator Hennessy.
Thank you. Does this, if somebody transferred positions, would they normally be paid out their leave balance? Or what's the normal treatment of the balance currently?
If you're transferring a classified to an unclassified, you would be paid out balances for your annual, but you lose all your sick. And then you do not earn sick or annual when you're in an unclassified position. So I believe only annual and any comp time would be paid off right now.
Follow up.
Follow up.
What do you earn when you're in a classified position? You don't earn any time off?
In an unclassified? Classified, you earn, depending on the number of years you work, so many hours per month or per pay period. And for unclassified, they don't earn any leave time at all. They're just, it's a salaried employee and they take whatever leave that them and their supervisor work out that they believe is reasonable. But they don't carry sick leave balances. They don't have annual balances or comp balances.
Follow up.
Follow.
I imagine when somebody transfers to this type of transfer, the transfer position includes a much higher paying salary. And so do we have a fiscal note of what this would cost if somebody were to leave from that position and have to be paid out?
No.
It would, if we had one, it would most likely say indeterminable because you don't know how many people would be affected. The thought behind my amendment was that if somebody worked and earned benefits as a classified and the legislature or the agency later moved them to unclassified, that they shouldn't lose the benefits that they have accrued as a classified employee. And those benefits will be paid out at the time that the person separates employment. Further discussion? Okay, motion before us is the adoption of Amendment 1732S. We'll call roll. Senator Morse? Yes. Senator Hennessy?
No.
Senator Reagan? Yes. Senator Gaida?
No.
Senator Rosenwald?
Yes.
The chair votes yes. Motion fails on a 3-3 tie.
I think it was 4-2.
Was it for? Senator Reagan, you were? a yes? Okay, I'm sorry. Misunderstood. Passes on a 4-2 vote. Thank you. What's that? Going on to the next one. Amendment 1677S.
Yep, so 1677S, what that states is that any classified full-time position which was vacant prior to July 1st, 2018 and remains vacant as of July 1st, 21 shall be abolished on September 30th, 21. There will be a reporting requirement. There'll also be exemptions granted by the governor as necessary, but any appropriated funds would lapse to the appropriate fund once those positions are abolished.
I'll move Amendment 1677S. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Senator Morse. So just speaking to the amendment, there were numerous positions that go back as far as 2013 that are on the vacant position list. This amendment really is just cleanup to say that if it was vacant on July 1st, 2018, and still vacant on the 21st, that anything 18 and older would be abolished. This does not prevent an agency to come before fiscal to change a classification if they need to fill a particular position, or to use any of the numerous positions that are still going to be vacant for 19, 20, and 21. I purposely cut it off at 18 because in 19 you were starting to open up positions, but then near the end, things kind of got shut down where you couldn't hire because of hiring freeze with COVID. So just in fairness, again, this is cleanup, much like we did today in passing the bill. If it was an inactive committee that we abolished it. Any further discussion? There being none, we'll call roll. Senator Morse,
Yes.
Senator Hennessy,
Yes.
Senator Reagan, Senator Gaida,
Yes.
Senator Rosenwald,
No,
and chair votes yes, and the motion carries 4-2. Amendment 1321S.
This amendment here would repeal the prospective repeal of the fiscal capacity disparity aid and additional aid based on free and reduced lunch components that are under current law in effect only for fiscal 21. This amendment would extend those programs essentially or those aid components as part of the adequacy grant indefinitely.
Senator Rosenwald.
thank you. On behalf of my colleague, the Dean of the Senate, who's recovering from surgery, I move Amendment 1321S.
Senator Rosenwald moves Amendment 1321S. Is there a second? Hearing no second, the motion fails.
Thank you.
Thank you. Amendment 1752S.
Amendment 1752S deals with a few different components related to education funding. I can go through them briefly. In section 44 of the amendment, paragraph 1 is the insertion of the language from Senate Bill 135, which would call for the greater of the greater of the ADM counts from the previous year, excuse me, from the 1920 school year or the 2021 school year when calculating the fiscal 22 adequacy grants. The next significant change in this amendment is on page 2 of the amendment, page 43 in the packet, relative to the new sections titled relief funding. So essentially effective in fiscal 22 and each year thereafter, this would create a $17.5 million additional aid component as part of the education funding formula, calculated based on percentage of free and reduced lunch populations at each school district level, municipality, or excuse me, school district level, as stated in the bill. Over the biennium, the $17.5 million would be an exact figure that the Department of Education would prorate grants under this component to equal to. And the last significant component of this amendment, starting on section 5 through the remainder of the bill, relates to state maintenance of equity compliance concerns that have been raised as far as receiving federal ESSER funds. The department is currently working through these federal requirements and the compliance of, and what this section essentially does is gives the department the ability to come to fiscal committee to draw from the education trust fund to make additional grants to districts to achieve compliance for those federal funds.
Okay. Is there,
I'll move 1752.
Senator Hennessy moves Amendment 1752S. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Senator Gaida. Discussion? Senator Hennessy.
Thank you. First, I want to thank the LBA's office, OLS, Department of Education, and the governor's office, and everyone else who worked on this amendment with me. I am very happy that we have been able to include SB 135, which passed the Senate unanimously. And for one reason or another, I'm not quite sure, got held up in the House. But this solidifies that our districts that saw a decrease in average daily membership because of the pandemic will be held harmless in their payment for fiscal year 2022. And then also, if you're looking at page 1 of the amendment on line 19, it's for 23, it also includes a hold harmless for the free and reduced lunch portion if for some reason the federal government continues the no form required policy that they have implemented. And I have a feeling that they are going to be doing that or may have already done that. I'm very excited to include the $17.5 million per year for our schools that are struggling the most. Per discussion with the department, the best data set we have to get the funding needed to these schools is our free and reduced lunch membership numbers. And again, we will not be using the numbers from the pandemic times with the pre-pandemic times. And then the maintenance of equity effort relates to the federal funding that's coming in, and the department has to run some numbers on that. So this is put in legislation just in case we need to adjust our payments, and the payments would only be adjusted up. I do have one question for the LBA on this. On the figures that you see at the end, the House passed versus the change. I would have expected to see a number in 23 for the 17.5 million. Can you just explain that?
So
Actually-
the way that the amendment's drafted now is the appropriation for the 35 million, 17.5 each year is a House Bill 2 fiscal 21 appropriation. It would be expended by the department in 22 and 23. It just would not be in House Bill 1.
Thank you.
Further discussion? Seeing none, the motion before us is the adoption of Amendment 1752S. Senator Morse?
I'll vote on the 50-page amendment, yes.
Senator Hennessy?
Yes.
Senator Reagan? Senator Gaida?
Yes.
Senator Rosenbaum?
Yes.
And the chair votes yes. And the amendment passes 6-0. Going on to Amendment 1753S.
1753S would appropriate $300,000 per year for the purpose of funding juvenile diversion programs. And the first $300,000 would be able to be funded by any funds appropriated in the current 2021 biennium that are still available and would be made non-lapsing by this amendment.
I'll move it.
Senator Gaida moves Amendment 1753S. Is there a second? Second by Senator Morse. Discussion.
Yeah, this is a compromise from the bill. We attempted to expand the existing program, which is using $300,000 a year for juvenile diversion. Great return on investment. We attempted to spread it statewide, but the body decided not to do that. So we're just asking to extend it, keep it going until we can get the report back from the Sununu Commission, or committee that's being formed to close Sununu. This will segue into that. So $300,000 each year to maintain what we already have in place right now.
Thank you for the discussion. Senator Morse.
Mr. Chairman, I'm just trying to bring myself up to speed on this. It didn't have millions in front of it, so I lost track of it today. Don't we have 300,000 that we were going to lapse into this? No?
If I may, Mr. Chair. So originally, there was 300,000 appropriated for 19 and for 20. The 300,000 in 19 was not expended because of COVID reasons, and it didn't, and it lapsed. So they got 300,000 that didn't lapse in 20. The programs are up now in several parts of the state, And this 300,000 for each of the next 2 years in the biennium will allow those programs to continue.
I'm with you on that, and I support that. Is there $300,000 of unspent money in 21?
Question maybe for the LBA.
I'm unsure how much has been unspent.
Okay, so if there was a lapse in 21, it continued to be a lapse.
Yes.
All right.
Further discussion. Seeing,
If I may, Mr.
Senator
Chair.
Gaida?
So would we use that lapse instead of an appropriation from general fund? Or-
Originally, that's what I thought I told you to do, but it's insignificant in calculating what I need to calculate, so I'm fine with this.
Thank you.
Okay. Any further discussion? Seeing none, we'll call roll. Senator Morse,
Yes.
Senator Hennessy.
Yes.
Senator Reagan.
Yes.
Senator Gaida.
Yes.
Senator Rosenwald.
Yes.
And the chair votes yes. Motion carries 6-0.
I do not plan to offer the next two amendments.
I'm sorry?
I don't plan to offer the next two amendments.
Okay.
I mean, I did something right.
You must have,
It's up for discussion.
if I can get a second.
Okay, at that, we have, say, going back to the top, one of the things that we had gone over this morning was the Amendment 1506S. That would add 1.5 million for vets mental health.
Chairman, those who were disagreeing, have they worked anything out?
Don't-
I think the rest of us were just waiting to vote.
I just want to keep those on hold for now.
I think you guys were in caucus.
I know, I thought they did.
I'll move it as amended by the committee.
Senator Hennessy moves 1506S as amended by the committee. Is there a second?
Second,
Second by Senator Rosenwald. Discussion?
So did we decide that you could use this for repaving your parking lot? Or what?
That was the question I asked.
So
Senator Gaida?
my interpretation of the unamended bill says that they can use the funds for mental health programs and for capital improvements and for safety and safety improvements. And I think that the amendment by the committee limited anything other than mental health programs. So they can't use it for safety. And what I was proposing to do is to leave the safety piece in, because a lot of these vets are older, they're in wheelchairs and crutches and things like walkers. So that being a safety issue, I could support that.
Can we just agree that we can use it for mental health
I
and
can't hear you.
safety? Can we agree that we can use it for mental health and safety? And
That's-
everybody will be happy?
That's what I'm trying to do. Yeah.
My concern with Mr. Chair,
Senator Hennessy.
I know it's not much money, but the thing is, it's not much money. So if we allow safety improvements, then the purpose of it is to get people out of their homes and to get back together with people to end the social isolation and the mental health issues that people have developed because of the social isolation. And $1.5 million spread across the state is not much money, even for these programs. So if you add a capital improvement piece to it, and I'm not saying that safety improvements aren't needed, but I am saying one or two projects could take up those improvements. And we won't be addressing social isolation issues.
Senator Morse.
Well, Mr. Chairman, I guess under the veterans, I would think common sense would prevail if we gave them the opportunity. They're gonna want to take care of people. Not sure anyone here is not willing to give them the money. with the fact that we believe it should be used for mental health. If there's a safety issue involved of that I don't know about, I don't think we're gonna argue over that, but I think they can make that determination. I mean, the way it's written right now, it's covering everything.
Actually, the way it's written right now, it's not because of the way we amended it.
I got that. But
So-
so far, we haven't got a vote on it.
We voted this morning to take out language that said including but not limited to providing grants to veterans organizations for safety upgrades and other capital improvements to enhance their facilities. So we have taken that out.
I got that.
Okay,
Now, if we don't come to an agreement here, we don't have any.
No, I can agree with that. If that's the committee's, I mean, I'm okay with that.
Okay. So moved.
okay, so
Aye.
so we're moving the amendment as
Amended.
amended?
Yes.
Okay,
Thank you, Senator Guy.
thank you.
Thank you.
And who did the second?
Second.
Senator Reagan. Okay, Senator Morse.
Aye.
Yes.
Senator Hennessy. Senator Reagan.
Yes.
Senator Gaida.
Yes.
Thank you. Senator Rosenwald.
Yes.
And the chair votes yes. 6-0. Motion passes.
Thought we withdrew the next one already.
The time being 3:59.
Well, I think we can finish these next three,
Oh.
but the next one, Senator Rosenwald, did you remove it?
Where are you on that?
You're on the back of the budget. Bill.
Oh,
13.
I just want us to remember that we want to do something like this, if necessary, in conference. I'm not moving it here because we don't have a back of the budget cut. We took it out.
Senator Morse.
I would like to discuss the next two. I spoke to Senator Susi earlier. I told her I wouldn't support doing this in the budget. 417 is going to be coming to the floor. If that's where the debate is going to happen, we should know about it. But the reality is I wouldn't be supporting it right now. And I had to go back and look up micro enterprise relief fund. This is definitely an item that would go to fiscal because it's federal fund. And that's how we've treated anything with federal funding. So I don't think we'd be voting on the next two items.
Okay. We taking any action on 1339? That was the reporting requirements?
No.
No?
I don't think it's necessary
Okay,
as long as we don't have a back of the budget cut.
okay, very good. All right, Senator Morse.
Chairman, I know it's late, but I think we could take care of 30 and 31 because the amendment has arrived, which is a big part of drafting on our budget side, so.
I'm not seeing
What do you,
that.
what do you, when you say 30 and 31?
330 and 331, delete section 330 and 331 divisive concepts.
Okay, okay.
Senator Rosenwald's amendment, I would move that amendment,
Second.
and then I have a replacement.
Senator Morse moves amendment 1288. That's seconded by Senator Gaida. Senator Morse.
Yeah, I've actually have language with Senator Bradley and Senator Avard to replace this. So if we remove that language, I'll offer an amendment 1770S. So if we take a vote on that first.
Okay. So we'll be voting on first on 1288 to remove sections 330 and 331. Any discussion? Seeing none. Senator Morse,
Yes.
Senator Hennessy,
Yes.
Senator Reagan, Senator Gaida,
Yes.
Senator Rosenwald.
Yes.
The chair votes yes. That motion carries. Senator Morse.
I'm going to move Amendment 1770S. I think it's being handed out. It's the right to freedom from discrimination. And I'm going to ask Senator Bradley to speak to it.
Motion by Senator Morse, moving Amendment 1770S. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Senator Hennessy. Senator Bradley, you're recognized for explanation.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you, Senator Morse and Senator Avard, for working with me on this amendment. As the title says, this seeks to establish freedom from discrimination in public workplaces and in education. It updates Chapter 354A, which is the State Commission for Human Rights, which lays out our law against discrimination. And it adds several sections to that law. So what this is an anti-discrimination proposal. It applies to the government or education. It allows employers to continue to do their own training, and it also makes very clear, both in the education section and in the public employer and public employee sections, that nothing interferes with appropriate diversity training, which is something that is very necessary in our state and our country. So let me just walk through the, if you want me to or not, I won't, but obviously there is the replication of the title and purpose of the chapter in this subdivision. It goes on to say in Roman 2, line 15, nothing in the subdivision shall be construed to prohibit racial, sexual, religious, or other workplace sensitivity training. And further in section Roman 3, no limits on academic freedom. Then there's definition sections. And then we get to on the top of page 2, where the prohibitions, i.e. the anti-discrimination language comes in. So a public employer, either the employer themselves or through the use of an outside contractor to train, advocate, or instruct an employee. And remember, this focuses on the public employees, not a private employer's private employees. So the prohibited activity, which would be discrimination, is that your immutable characteristics, race, age, sex, and all of the other categories that our current law lists, and they're all right here, and they're replicated in many areas of the statute, starting on line 5, age, sex, gender identity, sexual orientation, race, creed, color, marital status, family status, mental or physical disability, religion, or national origin. None of those are superior or inferior to those categories. Again, age, sex, gender identity, etc. So none are inferior, none are superior. And training opposite that would be seen as discrimination. In other words, training, instructing that racial, ethnic, age, sex, gender identity, superiority, inferiority would be seen as discrimination. The second part, and it's similar, is by virtue, again, of those immutable characteristics that no one is inherently, by virtue of those immutable characteristics, racist, sexist, oppressive, either consciously or unconsciously. In Roman 3, that an individual, it would be prohibited that they could be discriminated against or receive adverse treatment, again, because of those 12 immutable characteristics. And 4, that people, again, of the 12 immutable characteristics should not be forced in any way to treat people other than equal. In other words, it affirms the 14th Amendment of the Constitution that we're equal under the law. And these 4 items, starting on line 5 through 19, are replicated again in prohibition on content of government programs and speech. Moving to page 3, protection for employees, the same criteria. The only addition here, and because it's protection for employee, is that they could potentially be compelled to express a belief in or support for any one of the following 1 through 4 on page 3, lines 6 through 16, or 6 through 20, I'm sorry. Then there's a remedies section which replicates the existing remedies under the human rights statute. That's chapter 354. There is a similar statute in our education statute, which is 193, RSA 193. And similar to the human rights statute, it replicates a prohibition on teaching discrimination. And again, it's the same 4 characteristics. No one is inherently superior or inferior based on age, sex, gender identity, sexual orientation, etc., or that an individual is inherently racist, sexist, oppressive by virtue of those 12 immutable characteristics. And then moving on to page 4, the 3rd one and the 4th one that I outlined already, I don't know that I need to repeat it. Then on line 9, this is the language that says nothing in this section can be construed to prohibit discussing as part of a larger course of academic instruction the historical existence of ideas. So similar to making certain that there's no prohibition in any manner or form, no undermining, diversity training, or anti-bias training. The same thing here, does not undermine the necessary, in my view, discussion that as a nation, as a state, we should have about our history and or current affairs. Then sections 3, 4, and 5 are remedies section, obviously a severability clause, and that's a pretty brief summary.
Thank you. Senator Bradley, just one thing, and on page 3 at the top where you mentioned protection of employees, just wanted to clarify that that's protection of public employees.
Absolutely.
Thank you. Any questions? Senator Rosenwald.
Yes, thank you. Given the amount of discussion the divisive concepts have engendered and the amount we heard at the public hearing, and the fact that this is pretty long and I'm not a lawyer, could we have a little bit of time before we vote on it so that I can look at it and share with Senator Susie?
Seeing no objection?
Thank you.
Yes. Senator Reagan.
The only complaint I've received that deals with actual discrimination and oppression of people has come from employees, faculty members in Durham at the University of New Hampshire. And yet in line 18 on the very first page, It says nothing will be construed to limit their academic freedom, and they're already abusing it. So I don't know what we do about that.
Can I address that?
Senator Bradley.
That was obviously a concern for myself and people that I worked with in drafting this, Senator Reagan. There are particular constitutional protections and that apply to college professors in terms of academic freedom that have been adjudicated in the United States Supreme Court, whether we like it or not. That was the recommendation of, Mr. Lehman, the Attorney General, and others that I've worked with on this. So that's why it's there.
Senator Gaida.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Following up on the discussion between Senators Reagan and Bradley, my concern is not that instruction is provided. My concern is that advocacy is provided for these things. And I have some language that just came to me as I'm sitting here. Certainly, they're welcome to discuss and to instruct in concepts. When you start advocating, and I have kids at Plymouth State that are hitting me all the time, they're afraid to write down their complaints. Okay. We need to say you can teach what you want in terms of a concept, but you can't advocate it. Okay, that goes beyond any constitutional protection. That is indoctrination. And that's what's happening in our schools. That's the root of this whole problem. And so there are two places I would like to add language. And I know you'd have to work with the governor and the House, but I'll be damned if I'm going to let the educational institutions of this state and the university system teach this stuff because we didn't say you can't advocate for it. Teaching should be neutral. Advocacy is not, and the advocacy is happening, case after case. We know this.
Well, it sounds as if the committee is going to postpone a vote until other people have had a chance to read it, which makes sense. I'd urge you to work with the Attorney General, Mr. Lehman, and other attorneys and talk about some of the case law. I'm not disagreeing with you. There is a higher bar.
There is, but
Well, the
courts
one
can-
thing I would say too is that the way this language is written, it applies to the professors. It doesn't apply to, in other words, the prohibition would be on the university that they could not train their employees. What a professor may say in a classroom is what is more protected speech constitutionally. I guess that's the best way to describe it.
I don't dispute the constitutional protection. I don't think that constitutional protection expands to saying you fail or you get a D instead of a B because you didn't spout back what I wanted you to spout. And that's going on, Jed, right now. Okay.
Again, that would be my suggestion. Work with Mr. Formella and Mr. Lehman.
Okay, Senator Morse.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, I know we're going to take this up tomorrow morning, and I want to make sure Josh speaks with Senator Rosenwald on closed loop. I don't want the Senate failing on this issue. Something needs to be done, and it's not what was in the House's position. And we've worked a month on this. The redrafts have been so constant that we didn't get this till today. And I think a lot of work's gone into it, and doing nothing in the New Hampshire Senate on this issue would be a big mistake. So I'll be back tomorrow morning at 8 o'clock, but I think we've got to get our work done.
Speaking of tomorrow morning, how much time do we have before session?
We have 2 hours if we come in at 8. Unless, we've caucused already, we have tons of amendments to draft. I'm not sure what's going to come out of the other caucus tonight. So
I think we're caucusing now.
Yeah.
And at 9 tomorrow morning.
At 9?
we don't, if we could just get some look at financials tomorrow morning and close up what they need to draft something for us to vote on, which is usually a surplus statement.
Why don't we see what, we'll plan on meeting at 8 o'clock
Here.
tomorrow morning here. And we'll see what we can accomplish in that hour. Okay. Thank you very much. With that, I'll take a motion to adjourn.
So moved
I'm sorry, yes.
Oh.
We're going to recess.
until tomorrow morning.
Until tomorrow morning. Yep, thank you. We'll be in recess.